Guys, I have no idea what happened. It literally just clicked out. I was like, I don't know what to do. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna start off. I don't know what's going on. It just clicked out, but we're live. I have like the first, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, before you can watch the other show. Yeah, we're right back up and rolling. But man, this is such a good thing. It's such a good message. But I'm gonna just go back just for just a smidgen bit. We're just, we're back here in Luke. And so we just read about the parable, how Jesus was talking about the tax collector and the Pharisee and everything. And so we were just talking about the Pharisee saw himself as right, and the tax collector saw himself as wrong. And so going back, it says, Jesus, being right and being wrong. It's not just about being right and wrong. It's also about pride and humility. So proud people don't love well. And this is why it's funny. Are you the tax collector or are you the Pharisee? There's a lot of tension right now in, society with, you know, who's right? I'm right, or you're wrong, or I'm right. We are completely convinced on opposite sides of our rightness. When unfortunately, if we are, as Christians, are not careful, we will slip into our own rightness, our own spiritual pride, like a Pharisee. I would say respectfully, with all good intentions, but some that are followers of Christ, think it's our job, as a Christian, is to be right. We preach the truth. Since we preach the truth, we're right. Which is partially true, but because we are right, sometimes we often get offended by those who are wrong. So we find ourselves offended by anything that with what we think is not right. We're offended by posts, by what somebody posts on social media, what how they vote or how they believe or even how they behave. We live offended. We have lived offended so long. And if we stay there and we live in that offense, we start to have that settle in our heart. And then it oftentimes it'll simmer and then it'll grow. And if it grows from that, from a small offense, it grows into contempt. Instead of hating something someone does, if we're not careful, we start to hate who they are, which is never a good place, being a disciple of Jesus and how he wants us to be. But hey, we're Christians. We're right. We're the guardians of the truth, and the truth matters. But if we're not careful, since we're the guardians of the truth, we may be offended by those who are wrong. Then suddenly we start to think our job is to assess people, not judge, but assess them. Like, oh, it's entirely different because, I have the authority as a Christian to assess where people are. If someone asks me, what do they think of someone, I will assess them. Yeah, he's an okay guy, but he's way too into himself. Or she's pretty good at what she does, but she lets her kids run wild. We think it's our job to assess because we're right. If we feel right about our theology and about our churches. A person who has no theological background or training can come in with armed and with like enough armed truth to assess a church anywhere and everywhere. We think, we know which ones are the good ones and which are the bad ones. And since we're right, we can just tell anybody now that church is a little, they're, that church is too shallow. It's too boring. That church doesn't teach the right way, doesn't teach the right truth. Well, our church, we don't teach, that soft, feel good, touchy, lovey message. So we preach the unadulterated word of God, the exegetical verse by verse teaching that Jesus didn't do. You guys caught that? Yeah. He didn't do all that. But it's like, that's the holy stance that we want to stand on, with our rightness. We push off of others instead of perhaps who God has called us to be. We're right. Our way of doing is the right way. And anyone who doesn't do it our way has to be wrong. The Pharisee was right, and he knew it. He tells everyone how right he was and how wonderful and he is on everything he does, but looks down on all those who are wrong. And sometimes, without meaning to, we do the same thing. I don't know about you, but I have the right approach to COVID. I have real sources. I think everybody's a scientist now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows everything. I've done the research. I'm right. And so that's how, and I can show you and tell you how you should spend your money. Come on, we do all the same thing. If I had money like that, I would spend it on blank. Or you should spend it on whatever. Because my opinion, because I'm right. I'm going to tell you, I should tell you what Bible version to read. No, you don't read the Message Bible. That doesn't do right. That doesn't, they take so much out. No, because I'm right. And I'm going to tell you how to dress. I'm going to tell you what opinions that you need to have and how you should vote. Anything. We tend to think we are the best assessors, the best judge, the most right. The truth is, every single one of us are sinners. Our hearts, the Bible said, are wicked and very easily deceived. And as much as we think we are right, for so much, we are often so very wrong. And even if we're right, our approach may be wrong, which discounts our rightness. And even if you really, really are right, and if you are more right than most, but if you're not right and not doing it in love, there are so many Christians who are so incredibly rude. We know these. Some of these are the biggest jerks ever. I heard a message one time and it says, whenever you think of the word Christian, what's the first word that pops to mind? And he did this poll. Rude, horrible, judgmental, hypocritical, all of these huge words were the first things that people popped off. Nothing, not one time did anybody ever say loving, nice, caring, nothing. It was all of these negative things, and it's so frustrating. But you know what? That's what it is. All people are doing like this. This is my best point. If you don't hear anything, hear this point. The biggest jerks out there, you might be right, but it's all blanketed under, I'm a Christian, I'm right. But what these people are doing is making a point, and they're not making a difference. Say that again. I will. All the people are doing is just making a loud point, but they're not making a solid, big difference. Jesus wasn't just concerned about being right and about being wrong. He was also concerned about pride, humility. Your tone matters. The approach matters so much. I'm going to give you a little example. Again, I'm going to enter sarcasm mode. I feel like I got to disclaimer this. I don't want people thinking crazy stuff. So let's play a little game. I'm going to go tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm going to ask you if you like me more, and this makes you want to follow Jesus a little bit more faithful because of how amazing I am. And disclaimer, I'm pretty amazing. There is that. So Dwayne and I pay tithes, and we do and help a lot of people. And a lot of the people that we help and all that, they have no idea. And so we rarely ever watch TVMA movies or shows because, we don't want that filth to get into our minds. But if we do, whenever we do watch them, we watch them with a filter that takes the bad stuff out. And, we try to, ingest, what's okay to watch through that. I don't flirt with other men. Dwayne has all my passwords to my email, social media, computer, because I have nothing to hide. I don't do dumb stuff. At the grocery store, I always walk out the exit and I always walk in the entrance. Dwayne's cracking up. Yes, and I always put my grocery cart away in its desired, respectable place once I'm done with getting my groceries in the car. Big or small, anybody does anything for me. No joke, big or small, I'm always the first one to say thank you. See, Ray knows I am. I'm just really big on that. So, okay. Do you like me? Do you like me more? Do you want to follow Jesus because of how holy I am? You have to understand this, and people aren't drawn to Christ by your or my moral superiority. Not at all. People are not drawn to Christ because of how right we are. Just because we're so right, you know, doesn't mean we're making any bit of a difference. No, before you think I'm doing crazy stuff or whatnot, or you start assessing me. One of my favorite shows forever and probably will all time will ever be Vikings, and I'll tell you that's a pretty kind of show. It's very gory, so whatever. While driving, I get very upset if I let somebody in and they don't wave at me. I have plenty of flaws. Do not get me wrong, and I save a lot of the bad stuff for life group or talk to Dwayne or whatnot about, but I'm nowhere near perfect, not at all. Jesus is the only perfect one here. And what's fascinating to me though, he is without sin, and he drew sinful people to himself, even though he was perfect in every way. People felt drawn to Jesus, who were so imperfect, who were very dark and in sin and very secretive. I'm going to give you 4 examples of this. Jesus sat at parties with sinners, and they flocked to him, and they truly enjoyed his company. A prostitute was so moved with his grace, his glory, his love, that she knelt down to worship him and poured this expensive oil and perfume on his feet. A tax collector hated and despised by everyone for his horrible ways and the way that he treated people. And Jesus took time to love him and even went back to his house for dinner. And the 4th one, there was a woman who went from bed to bed and man to man. And Jesus spent time loving her and offering her what she was looking for, a living water that she was empty on the inside, and he would be able to fulfill and quench that need, that longing to be fulfilled. He was perfect without sin, and yet he drew sinful people to himself. Do we do that? I mean, I know we're not Jesus, but yeah, we're sinful. We've made mistakes, but are people drawn to us by our love? Why do you think sinful, broken people wanted to be around Jesus? Because he didn't make them feel wrong. He made them feel loved. In fact, I want to read one of the most, what I believe is one of the most important verses in the New Testament on how we need to treat people. It's from John 13. And before I get into it, I want to let you know kind of the main part and a little bit of the context before we just jump in. Jesus at this time knew it had the hour was time to come. It was getting close that he was going to leave, this world and go to be, in heaven with his Father. Just imagine. Jesus has been faithful to God, beginning to prepare his life, to go on the cross. He knew that the time was running out until this horrific crucifixion would take place. Having loved his own who were here in the world, he loved them to the end. And how did he do that? They were sitting around the table or on the ground. I mean, however, it was back in that culture, having a very intimate supper, the Last Supper, mind you. They were having that together. And Jesus gets up, shocks everyone, takes off his outer robe, and puts on a servant's apron. And he kneels down to each disciple, shocks them to death, and he starts to wash their feet. He loves them with the most humble, serving way and act. They are shaken, they're stunned, they're rattled. Then they go back to eating, and he says, "One of you will betray me." Judas realizes, that's me. And he says, what you must do, go and do quickly. And Judas hurries and leaves, and the others, and it goes off, and he betrays Jesus. This is the context whenever he was saying, what I'm about to read. This is the last meal that he's having with his friends. And he knows that the suffering is about to, take place. Can you imagine something so horrific that is getting ready to happen hours and hours right before? And would this be how you would be doing? Would this is how your mentality is? Like, he's loving and he's serving them with the most sacrificial, humble act to wash dirt off of their feet, while he was being betrayed by one of his closest friends. And he says, as my children, I will be with you only a little bit longer. You will look for me, and just as I told you, the Jews, so I will tell you now, where I'm going, you cannot come. A new command I give you: love one another. So, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples if you love one another. How will people know if you love Jesus? How will they know you follow him? How will they know if you're one of his disciples? They won't know you're a follower by what you're against. They won't even know, you're a disciple by how you vote. They will not know that you follow Jesus by what you post on social media or even how right you are. They won't even know you're his disciple on how you vote. They won't know you're his disciple on anything, but they will know that we belong to Jesus by the way that we love them. So why do we often not do this? We get this so wrong. And why is that? Why? Why do we not love others like this? The answer could be that we're just too busy being right. Jesus was concerned, trust me, he is concerned with right and wrong. But he's also concerned with pride, humility. When we start off with a prideful stance of I'm right, a very negative stance starts to take place within us. We have this posture of, well, I'm right, I have the truth. I'm always right, and the first thing that we feel is moral superiority because we're right and these other losers are wrong. Because I feel morally superior, it's far easier to be judgmental of those who are not right and for those who are different and they're just wrong. And that's how we think, that's how we feel. But because we're judgmental, and that's just how it is. But think about it. Jesus was the most right and the least judgmental person who ever lived. He was the most right, he was the most perfect, and the least judgmental. So let's talk about the woman committing adultery. The players here, the major players here, Pharisees were right, obviously. The woman, obviously wrong. And per the Pharisees, they did have a right to judge her. And Jesus said to them, making the story very short, those who have sinned can cast the first stone. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Those who have not, I messed that up. And I totally missed over my thing. Those who have not sinned can cast the first stone or have the right to judge her. So let's think about it. Jesus has never sinned. He was actually the only one who has never sinned. And so he had the right to judge her, but he didn't. So what did he do? He wrote in the sand, and the men started to walk away. Perhaps, and some believe, and we never know, no, it's never said in the Bible, but, through a little bit, of culture and all that, some people believe that he started to write their sins in the sand. And Jesus asked her, who are your accusers? And they all have gone. And that's what she replied. They are all gone. They aren't here. And Jesus said, neither do I judge or condemn you. Go and sin no more. There was truth, but it was met with an overwhelming sense of grace and love. So here it is. So what do you think the woman felt? She was wrong. She knew it. We knew it. Everybody knew it. And yet he did not treat her like that. She felt valued. She felt seen. She felt loved in spite of her sin because his heart was different. Jesus is concerned about right or wrong. And I've said this so many different times, and I need everybody to get this. He's concerned with right and wrong. There is a standard. He's very clear in the Bible what is right and what's wrong. But equally, he is very concerned with your pride and your humility. So here's a different posture maybe we can live by here. If we start with, I am right, that will lead to moral superiority, which would lead to, becoming judgmental and easily angered and offended. But instead, what if we started leading out of humility? And what if we started with the thought of, I'm forgiven? We feel a profound sense of gratitude and becoming more accepting for those who may be even wrong or even different. And since we're more accepting, we are more, we are overflowing with love. And that's really what it is. If we come at it with a posture of forgiveness, love, grace, gentleness, instead of always trying to prove and having to be right and ineffective, we can be humble, we can be loving, we can still share the truth, but do it in an effective way. We do not change people by judging, but by loving. So I want to tell you a story. I told you, and then kind of wrapping it up here. And it's a little bit risky because I'm saying it live here, and it's going to be a little bit transparent, a little embarrassing, a little hard, because it's not a stellar moment that I've lived in, and also I have got my kid next to me, so there's that. So many of you know I love to work out, and I was actually at a CrossFit class. And we just got done finishing a class, and we had this coach, the owner, an amazing CrossFitter, amazing coach, amazing athlete. And we were going to do this partner workout. We call them WODs, a workout of the day, but we're going to do this really ridiculously hard workout, and she's going to be partnering up together, her and I. And she can lift far heavier than me. She can lift and go longer, go harder, and I'm just not as fast, as strong, or whatnot. And she pushes me and everything. And so we were laughing and having a great time. And at this time, she didn't really know who I was a whole lot, but she knew I would come there. Nobody's going to outwork me, but you can outlift me. So I have a great work ethic. I go hard, and that's just how I roll in life. Well, she didn't really know me very well. She does now, but at that point, she just knew my name. I was a number there. And so we were going back and forth. And after we kind of got in the middle of the workout, we took a little break, and she says, "Hey, Amanda, what do you and your husband do for a living?" And I told her a little about, about us, and she was like, "Oh, okay, well, I saw on Facebook you do this." She says, I said, "Yeah, we're we have a church," and she says, "I just didn't really know anything about it." And she goes, "I'm not religious. I'm not at all. And I'm sorry, I'm just not." And I said, "That's fine. You're sure kicking my hind end all over the place here." And her countenance changed. And as soon as she found out that, we have the church, and we're pastors, and we do, and we love, and we're not religious. We have a relationship with Jesus. And, I was trying to talk to her a little bit, but I was like, "Listen, let's work out. Let's do this thing. Well, we're not here to know about, we're here to work. And then we can talk about it later." And as soon as she found out, she wasn't as quick. We couldn't finish our cycles. I was beating her. I was lifting more. I was doing more. And I should not have been. And whenever we finished the workout, I finished way past her. I exceeded her in weight and time, and I should never have done that. And as soon as I threw the barbell down and I said, "Time," she was still going. She had like 10 more reps left to go. And she said what you would say is a lower tier bad word. And it starts with the D, and it ends with, and it rhymes with "ram it." So, and as soon as she said that to me, it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm just sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize," and I know where you stand. It was, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm just such a horrible person. I never do the right thing. And I'm so sorry. I so apologize for," and it wasn't like a remorseful thing. It was I have been judged so much, and I'm a failure. And I did it again. I completely failed. When I try not to, I do. And it was that. And it was just, she started to cry, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what in the world is going on?" And I followed it up with, "Well, I don't give up either." And I just said it. And she looked at me, and I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, I've said a lot worse in my day. And I says, "And Lord knows I'm not going to judge you." I says, "Because you know what? Jesus has forgiven me for so much. He loves you exactly who you are. And being real, I'm not quite for sure what God would think about me saying that word too, but hey, it's in the Bible, whatever. But I do know what he would think about the love that I showed. And because we rarely help somebody by judging their sin, but we might help them by loving them and pointing them to the one who will forgive their sins. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3, if I speak in tongues or of men and angels and do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clinging cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all the mysteries and knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but not have love, I am nothing. If I shall possess all, possessions to the poor and give over my body to the hardships that I may boast, but do not have love, I am nothing. We can go to church, 3 or 4 times a week and be full of anger and rage. We can have 3 different devotional Bible plans going all at once. But if we don't have love, are we really making a difference in anything? We are not making a difference. We are only making a point. By this, you will know that I follow Christ. How is that? What is that? It is love. It is by how we love people. That is the only way you will know that we are followers of Christ. Who are we? We are the body of Christ. We are a light shining in this dark world to lead with love. We lead with love. You lead with love. We lead with love. And to Jesus, it's not just about right and wrong. It's about pride and humility. Guys, proud people don't love well, but humble people, forgiven people love who are hurting, love people who are broken, and love people who need grace to Jesus just as much as I need grace of Jesus. So I thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry about how that got mixed up and broken up a little bit. The first part is on there, and I know we got pretty much the meat and potatoes on this one, but it was a good opening. But thank you so much for tuning in. But you know what, guys? I challenge you. Take this. It's not profound and it's not nothing, but you know what? We need to hear it because we miss the mark so much that we just miss it. Oh man, so bad, especially as Christians. We need to love. We need to do better at love, and it doesn't matter if we're right. It doesn't matter if we don't come at it with a stance and a posture of love. As Paul said, we sound like clinging cymbals. That's all it is. It's like Charlie Brown's teacher. That's exactly what we sound like to the world. We have to come with love. We have to lead with love. We have to live a life of love. So I challenge you, take this, think about it, chew on it this week. Let us know how we can help. We love you. It's pretty awesome. She helped bring this out. So we love you guys. We'll say a quick prayer closing and then have a great Sunday. So thank you, Jesus. Thank you for meeting us. Thank you for this word. Help us to live and walk in love as you have instructed. You have set the standard. You have given us the bar just to live by. Help us to walk in it. Help us to do better. Help us to be better. And we just love and thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Happy Sunday, fun day. Let the festivities begin. We love you. Let us know how we can help. Take care.